I'm Miriam Joy and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to show you how to do the acorn rim. This was something I played with and you guys really liked it, so I agreed to do a video for you. So we're going to show you how to do that today. And what you want to do is prepare your gourd. Now this one was actually a shriveled gourd, but it didn't have any cracks in it, so it added a lot of character. And I'm going to let you decide whatever type of gourd you're going to use, but you want to go ahead and color it and seal it so that you're protected and everything. And on this one I did the feathering dye that I do, so if you like that look, there is a video to show you how to do that one as well. So get that prepared, start to let it dry, and then while that's drying you can work on your acorns. And the acorns I picked up in the fall, and to do this size one I did one sandwich bag full of acorns. So however many that is, you may have different size acorns, so it's kind of gonna depend on what you have. And it goes a little bit faster than a lot of people think it's going to go. And I just took my color, one that's going to accent my gourd. So you might want to do a light with a dark or something like that. And I'm going to try School Bus Yellow. We're going to see how well that coats our acorn here. If not, I may switch to a little bit more color that I know coats real well. And I'm going to cover the inside of these with my Q-tip. So I'm just going to dip my paint in my Q-tip. I'm going to hold my acorns and just color the inside of my acorns. Now I did a color that only took one coat. And I'm not quite, don't think that one's going to take one coat. So I'm going to switch over to an Empire Gold. Sometimes yellows are hard to coat as well as reds, so get one that you know coats really well. There we go, that's better. And keep your fingers out of your yellow as much as possible. Yeah, I need a little paper towel with me. And you're just simply going to keep coating them just like that. When your Q-tip starts to get yucky, and usually I can do quite a few first. I think I did mine with about 3 or 4 Q-tips, so I did several Q-tips first. Now I broke these in half, the ones that are double. Now that guy's got one that doesn't have a hole in him, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave him. And I didn't pick out a certain size, I left them all one size, all big and little and everything in between. But I left them double like this because they were easier for me to hold, and then once I got them painted, then I broke them in half. So I continued on until I got them all done. And I'm using an old dry board for a reason. This is an old one that I don't care if I varnish on or get stuff on because it's already kind of sticky, and that's okay. So I filled it all the way up, and then I sprayed the insides with gloss spray varnish. And then after they were dry, I turned them over and I sprayed them with flat varnish so that they're not glossy, because I don't think the outside of an acorn should look glossy. It should look natural. And you want to make sure that your acorns are nice and dry, no green ones or anything like that. So while those are drying, we'll come back to our gourd. And I'm going to use a smaller rimmed one. And I'm going to take my Flexi and I'm going to run it all the way around. And I'm going to do about every inch all the way around and down probably 1/4 of an inch from the top. don't have your flexi to measure with, that's at miriamjoy.com. You need one, you'll love it. And on the last one, if it doesn't quite match up, that's okay. It doesn't have to work exactly if you need 2 in there or if you need less in there. It's not really going to show that much, so we're not going to really worry about it. It's to put our rim that we're going to sew onto with. Now on my other one, I did do it in yellow so that if it showed with the coiling thread, if it did show that you could see that, and that's what we're going to use. The first thing we're going to do though is we're going to take some fiber rush. Now if you can't get a hold of the rush, you can also use paper twist. It's not quite as nice, and I do prefer the rush over the twist, but you can use what you have. We're going to make it the size of the rim. Now when you're working on a bigger one, it's a little bit easier than a smaller one, and I measure it all the way around, and what I do is I cut it at an angle. Now if the other angle is on the top, then this one should be on the bottom, so that they match up just like that. You have one on top and one on bottom, and I'm going to measure it again. And I think I need to go a little bit smaller. You'd rather have it a little bit bigger in the beginning and keep cutting it down than too short at the very first, so just keep that in mind. And that looks pretty good there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hot glue gun those 2 pieces together. Now where you cut it, it should be about the thickness of the rest of it. That's the reason we cut it at an angle, so we can glue those together and we have one piece. Alright, so let's go ahead and get our holes drilled here. Make sure that you have a drill bit that's large enough that your needle can go through. And I'm using the Gore drill by the Canning Shop. I really like it. I used to use the flex shaft of the Dremel, and it's kind of hard to keep that, even the shaft going around. So I really like the Gore drill, and I think I have it set on about medium speed. And we're just going to put all of these holes in now. Don't forget to wear your mask when you're drilling or working with anything like this on your boards. Have a N95 rating. Alright, got those all the way around. You want them far enough down that you're not going to split your gourd when you pull it or anything like that either. So you don't want it too close to the rim. That's another thing to remember. So I'm going to use my wax linen. I'm going to cut me a piece off. Try and think about a big enough piece to go all the way around. And we're going to, let's see here, start this from the front. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie it back here. I'm trying to do it on the inside. And you want to leave enough tail that we can tie off when we get back to that. And we don't want to put our holes much closer than an inch apart because we want this room to tie our beads or acorns onto, so that's kind of important. You don't want them too close together. Now I'm going to go in through the front and I'm going to come up through my waxed linen so that it's coming out in the back right there. So you see that string right there. What that does is it keeps that front stitch nice and straight. Doesn't have it coming in at an angle. Otherwise we'd have this big angle in the front. So we're going through the back and we're coming through and pulling that nice and tight. I remember using this stitch to sew on our Letterman jacket, little badges or things. Okay, so we're almost to our first one. Find that hole there. And all you're going to do is tie off to that first one, and I'm just using a double knot. You can do a surgeon's knot. And I'm going to leave those just a little bit longer and we'll just work those in. Now, you should have sprayed these on the front and the back by now, nice and dry. And I flip them all over, set them up in a line. We're going to use the same drill bit, come back with our little, and it goes fast. People said, oh, what a pain, but it really wasn't that bad at all. It did not take that long. Sometimes you have to go around that little stick. I didn't break the little stick off, I just kind of left it there. But you see how fast these are going. It doesn't really take a lot of time. This little guy that has the other one on him. Okay, so those are ready to go on. And I'm going to use sinew, and I'm going to use sinew because it's waxy and it holds in place. I sew a lot with the sinew or bead a lot with the sinew, and I'm going to keep it in place, but also it's kind of a neutral color, so you can kind of use it on anything and it doesn't show up a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and work as big as pieces you're comfortable with, because we're going to have to sew probably a couple of pieces on it. And if you even wanted to come back in here and tie on to where we finished, you could do that as well. So I'm just going to tie onto that piece. Actually, I'm not. Actually, I'm going to run it underneath the paper rush. Just tie it on. I'm going to spend the whole video watching me tie a knot. That's usually where we have fun. Alright. Now we want to, again, leave the tail long enough that we can tie onto that at the very end. We're going to take our glass beads, and these are an E bead or a 6 bead, and I wanted something that showed up nice with the other colors I was working on, so I pulled out some different examples, and I think I'm going to go with the gold here. I kind of liked that. And get rid of that tape and pour me some out. I'm going to come through this guy. And see this part when you drilled it right there, the little lid that came down? Just pull that out and get rid of it. It shouldn't show when you get your bead on there, so we're not going to worry about it. So we're going to put this bead in there, and we're going to go through it, but we're not going to go through it the second time. We're going to just go drop back down through that acorn. And I'm going to set the acorn right on the rim and pull him nice and tight. Now, while we're still on our first strand, I'm going to do that again. So through the acorn, up through the bead. Don't go through that bead again or you're going to knock it off. Down through the acorn. And before I pull that, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pull it nice and tight here first and anchor that. So we've got that on there, kind of nice. Now, I'm going to go under the paper rush, if you can see that real well. So what we're doing, we're using that to go around and around and around. And that's why we didn't want to put our stitches real close together. So now this time, we're going to think about, those two are there, but we want a little bit higher one. So I'm going to put some beads down to make this guy a little bit higher. So I'm using 2 beads first. And then my acorn and a bead. So we're going to come out, we're going to go back through just the acorn, not that bead, or he's going to fall off, and back through the other 2 beads. And I'm going to bring him over here, and I'm going to set him down next to these 2, and bring him in nice and tight. So see how he's going to sit higher now than the other 2 guys. So we're going to do this again. The first one, I'm going to think in kind of things of 3, unless you know that you need a higher one or a lower one. So we're going to do 2, 1 on each side of our rim. Okay, and another one on the front, so that was kind of on the back. And we're putting both of these on before we go under our rim, our paper rush. So I'm getting him where I wanted, and then I'm pulling him nice and tight. And then I'm going under that and pull that as tight as you can get it. Now you can see that there's really, you haven't really seen the middle of this guy first. So let's go ahead and keep doing, let's do another front and back. And sometimes those beads won't quite fit. So, just change them out. So this one we're gonna, and you see we're covering, tucking that guy in, that little end from our wax linen, we're tucking him in. And you're just gonna kind of fill in. You know, there is no right or wrong. If you find a way that's easier, then do it. On my first gourd that I did, I put a bead underneath it first, but then I don't think it was laying on the rim as flat as it could have been. So I'm only doing the 2 to get those reached up higher on the rim. So pull that guy nice and tight. we're going to go under our rim. And now when I pull this, sometimes it'll move a little bit. Now this time, I'm going to pull, and actually, this guy's pulling on this side because he's on that side of the hole. So I'm going to take it out and I'm going to go back on the other side of that stitch to keep it tighter. So I'm going to come back on this side of this stitch to hold that one tighter. And see, that's much better. Now we have this opening up here where our other one is. So you just kind of, instead of coming out on this side, we've kind of just pulled our string on that side of the acorn. And I'm going to, this time, load 2 beads first, go through the acorn, and that is to give it height coming up into the middle. 1 on top for the color decoration, back down through the acorn and the 2 beads. I'd like to do a V-shaped gourd too with this on it. I think that would be really pretty as well. So I had a lot of fun doing this. We've been out picking up acorns again. Okay, I'm going to get this guy a little bit tighter. So I'm going to set him there and pull him nice and tight. And kind of position him where I think he should go. And overlap them. Don't have them in just a straight row. Have some big, some smaller, some on top, some on bottom. And just keep on going around and building on that. Now see, we're starting to get a nice design there. And go ahead, and you're going to probably run out of your sinew. Just tie onto it, probably right up against the back of it. Lay it down like we did these ends, and you can even use your needle to tuck them in and work all the way around until you get to this one, and you'll do the same thing. Tie off with your ending part here, and just take your needle and run your ends up through the acorns, and then that'll hide all of your ends. Now, if they're not quite thick enough and you notice that some of your thread is showing after you're done, another thing you can do is take an acorn and simply put a tiny bit of glue, and you don't have to use hot glue, you could use just any of your tacky glue or anything like that too, and then put that on the hole itself to cover it up and just glue it in place, and that will work to hide that thread up, and then you can fill in any holes you might have. But that is simply how we do the acorn rim. And like I said, if something works for you, do it. That's fine. I want to kind of show you a hole here where I'll probably go back in and add one of the acorns that I was talking about. Just simply come in here and glue that on, and then it'll hide that up. So that will really help finish that. Another thing I thought about doing with this rim is taking some small sticks and putting them in those holes here and there, and I think that would really add another dimension to it. So I want to go ahead and get that done and have that completed like that. So that was a lot of fun. I really hope you enjoyed this. Was one of my fun projects that I've been playing with and wanted to do, and God bless my husband that goes out and helps me pick all this crazy stuff as well. If you have any questions about what we did today, please email me at art@miriamjoy.com. If you have any need for any of the products that we use, they are available on my website at miriamjoy.com. Also, there's a tab there where you can click on to more fun YouTube and our Facebook page. We're always doing something fun and exciting. God bless.